AI is going to sweep the world. Deepfake is a very serious violation of one's privacy. Foreigners expressing views about India, I'm not against that. If you like Bharat, you should call it Bharat. I mean, if you like India, you call it India. The CEOs are operating from Singapore or from Dubai. And they are Indians.
The government was also blamed that they tapped phones of various journalists or various ministers, in opposition also some MPs.
Wow, now that's a very sensitive question.
Do bureaucrats have political opinions when they are actually working under a government or a state?
What is the image of a bureaucrat we would like to have? Steel frame, vagara vagara. There's nothing like that. I don't think any country can call itself the Vishwaguru.
Hello, and welcome guys to AP Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into AP Podcast, and thank you so much for being a regular viewer. If you're not a regular viewer and you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe it. We keep posting good content, creative content. We cover topics around every corner that is possible there, and we make a hell lot of effort to make conversation easy for each one of you who is out there. And especially if you're a Gen Z, bro, this is your niche. You are going to love the content that we are going to make here. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Anyways, guys, talking about today's episode. For today's episode, we have with us Yashovardhan sir, who is a former IPS officer. And let me tell you, I feel very proud doing this podcast, and I could get the opportunity to actually do this podcast. Apart from that, if I really talk about the conversation that we had today, as in on the podcast date, it was something that was beyond the imagination. As in, there is one perspective that we see as civilian, there is one perspective we see as students. But when you actually talk to someone who is out there dealing with things, that is something that is very unique. So from AI to security breaches, from bureaucracy to actually working with the government, we discussed a hell lot of things. So I'm pretty sure that you're going to get a hell lot of things from this podcast, and you're going to know a lot of internal information about the government and how the AI and government is working together. So I really hope that you'll watch this podcast till the very end. So AP Podcast rolling in 3, 2, 1. First of all, Yashovardhan sir, thank you so much for coming on AP Podcast. It's really a great pleasure to host a personality like you who's having such a robust persona. So with utmost gratitude, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be here.
Thank you, sir. So again, just like we were earlier having chat, just like I said, we want to keep things candid. So on that behalf, I would really like to start with something which is very contemporary, because even if you talk about this podcast, the majority of the listeners of this podcast are the young people, the young crowd, the Gen Z that is tagged as.
Okay.
So when we talk about this generation, sir, this generation is quite, what you can say, motivated by the European civilization and the things that are happening in Europe. If there are marches being held for this Israel, Hamas, and maybe Ukraine, Russia, there are marches being held there. There are some liberal rights they are fighting for. So the same things that are happening there, they will also happen in India, because our Gen Z crowd of India is quite motivated by them. So, there is this sudden cultural change that is happening in India, which is sometimes very harmful when it takes the way to, various conflicts, especially when you have social media like Twitter, Instagram. You make one reel, you put one tweet, and then you're going to raise something very controversial. So what do you feel about this whole new narrative of social media and the European civilization?
Well, that's a good question you've asked me. I think there are two kinds of influences which the Western younger generation is having on us. One is, of course, the so-called liberalization, which also some people say which is illiberal in many ways, which goes a little too far. But let's say the expression of the youngsters, whether it's in Harvard, Stanford, and the Ivy League universities, or in London, it was there to a large extent before. But of course, it's blown up by the social media because it has a much wider reach. And that has definitely influenced India. Let me say that the students in India have been very expressive right from the beginning. I remember the 60s where there were a lot of which people call students' trouble. But I would say they were students' expressions. When I came into the service in the 70s, students were agitating on a number of issues. In fact, when I was SP, as SSP Sagar, the students were agitating that they wanted postponement of exams because there were no facilities. And that was the right thing to do. So there are many ways in which you can say it is similar, India and the Western countries. In many ways, I would say it's also unique because the kind of protests which we are having here today, whether it's on the farmer issue, whether it's on freedom of expression, it's something very, very unique to India. And the second point which you've mentioned, I totally agree. Twitter has given a whole new dimension.
Definitely.
To expressions. Now, Twitter means that you have to be responsible about your expressions too. Something which hurts any particular community, something which hurts the nation, I mean in that sense. Something which hurts a national pride. One should be careful of making such statements. Of course, you're absolutely right to be expressive about many issues, whether it's unemployment, price rise, social issues. That would certainly be a very, very good expression to do on the Twitter. But nothing inflammatory, nothing like hate speeches. I'm really against them. And I've made it very clear. In fact, I use the Twitter very,
extensively.
often. And I feel that there has to be an element of responsibility.
Yeah, but what do you think is this reason of this motivation? As in, literally, there might be a person who doesn't even belong to our country are having this certain energy or certain motivation or certain will to tweet on something which is not even their part. Like if you are a foreigner, if you are someone who doesn't even belong to India, how are you having that proper right to make a comment on that? Even because of this conflicts like India, Canada, and even some other neighboring countries are happening.
See, there is a specific issue about India, Canada. There is also a specific issue about India, America. About India, Canada has not really been sensitive to the Indian
diaspora
and the needs. Right from the Kanishka bombing, I think Canada behaved rather irresponsibly, I would say, for the simple reason that the intelligence which was given was not acted upon. In fact, the inquiry into the killing of the people in Kanishka air crash was really not bothered about. So even now, and let me tell you, even Lanka was very upset with Canada on the issue of LTT terrorists. So I would say that for people who are commenting from outside on this issue, they perhaps don't understand that if somebody is propagating terrorism against India on a foreign soil, then it's definitely incumbent upon the country like Canada to take action or to transfer that fellow to us so that we can prosecute him according to our... So yes, but foreigners expressing views about India, I'm not against that because in the entire world this is happening. We are talking about President Trump, whether he comes back or not. Biden and Biden's particular policy, whether it's the Middle East or China or anything. In that respect, I don't mind. But yes, there are foreigners who know nothing about India and who keep making comments with a slant against India. That is something which is not
and
really
these
good.
People actually have young millennials following them who are actually making these comments. So they are also sort of deviating the mind of these young individuals like us towards different genres, and then we not end up discussing or actually reading things that genuinely matter. Like everyone is against this thing, Bharat, India being named as Bharat. The liberal crowd, the Gen Z crowd is very much against that.
I really don't know why we get into this kind of a debate. I mean, if you like Bharat, you should call it Bharat. I mean, if you like India, you call it India. I mean, I don't know why this debate has really come across, and why should anybody be against Bharat, or they should be against, any nomenclature which is there. In fact, both are mentioned in the Constitution. So, in that respect, there should be no debate about it. But we tend to spend a lot of time on very, very trivial issues. And I think we should get past it. You're right.
And even I think a political angle is also involved, since the opposition made their whole alliance called India Alliance. So many people are assuming this, that the government wants to, they are so particular about changing it to Bharat is because of that alliance name. What are your perspective on that?
See, unfortunately in India, politics is woven around from the grassroots level, around the police stations, around tehsils, around, so everything becomes political. And you're right that many of these issues have a political tinge. Anything which the government does, the opposition would think it's wrong. And anything which the government does, the supporters of the ruling party say that it's right. I mean, the truth lies in between, right? There has to be a gray area. So there are certain policies or issues which are very good. There are certain issues which you can criticize. It depends on your value system, what you think is right, what you think is wrong, what you feel empirically can be proved that it is not been successful. But to have going the whole hog one way or the other, I think that is a little extreme. So in my comments, whenever I make on specific issues, not on individuals, because individuals are not important. It's the party which is important, policy which is important, it's the nation which is important.
Party is important.
I mean, the political party, because what ideal does it hold? What does it profess? What does it say? Because the
current party which is in power, do you think their ideals are good for our country?
Well, that's a matter of debate. I mean, as far as both the parties profess that they are doing good for the country, right? Certain. For example, I don't think that the 80 crore rations should still be continued. On that, I'm against. That's not correct. That's a kind of a freebie, weebie, whatever you call it. And it also gives a picture that, 80 crore people in this country need rations. No, we don't. Below the poverty line percentage is very low, whether it's 18%, 10%, 21%, whichever way you calculate it. And so it should not be given. But the certain policies are very good, like making houses, like giving these gas cylinders, like bringing in electricity to the villages. Absolutely. So the policies have to be tweaked. You can't have a one set of rule all the time.
But anyways, you feel the governance is happening in a robust way in the current time?
Governance, well, I would say that in some respects, yes, but not in all respects.
And in which zone it's not happening in the correct way?
Well, I think, a lot needs to be done on keeping on looking at some very, very critical issues. I think pollution needs to be addressed in a much, much more, warlike fashion. It's a medical emergency right now.
You're talking about Delhi government or overall?
Overall. You see what is happening in Mumbai. It's horrible. What's happening in Jaipur, it's no better. What's happening in Patna, Allahabad, they're full of smoke, full of, pollution, which is absolutely killing us slowly. These are issues. I mean, you see the metros, the garbage, the filth, this needs to be attacked. That means the municipal governance needs to be improved. The municipal governments is in shambles. Whether you look at the landfill sites, look at the pollution and cleaning of even Ganga or Yamuna. I think this is where our thrust should go. That's very, very important. What is important is there is a difference between existence and living. Living is quality of life. Existing is just surviving. Why do people go abroad? Today, the CEOs are operating from Singapore or from Dubai, and they are Indians. Why? Because of quality of life. Why are the immigrants rushing to Canada? Whether it's the wages, whether it's the professional, or whether it's the aspiring students like you, brilliant students, they're all going abroad.
But isn't it like the reverse case is going to happen in next few years? So, as in the development that is coming in India with the hold of capitalism, there are people who are going abroad or who were abroad are now going to shift back.
Not really. I mean, the people who are coming back are when they come back are in their late 50s or 60s. But the real talent which we have is going out. Why is it going out? Why don't we make our cities better? Why don't we make our suburban areas better? Why have we not been able to build new cities? Look at Chandigarh, it's a beautiful city. It has been made after independence. So we have the ability. I think we should spend more time, more efforts, more collaboration, more deliberations on these issues. But if we are attracting a lot of foreign investment, India is doing well economically. In fact, if you look at the macro picture, then you have a lot of headwinds. There's a recession coming. Bank rates are high. In that scenario, if you look at India is projected well. The IMF even says it's about 6 and 6.5% rate of growth. So when we are having that, then I think we need to look at these issues very, very seriously. In the future years, we owe it to our future generations. So I think there has to be some kind of a policy shift, which is very, very important.
So speaking about intelligence, there's this one thing that's been coming up at the moment, that is this AI. Well, now it's been almost an year since we are seeing AI and its different ways of getting into world, taking jobs, and even risk some security threats that we get. Even this recent movie of the Mission Impossible franchise by Tom Cruise. So there was this AI threat they were showing, which was named as the Entity, and it was omniscient, omnipotent sort of enemy that they were having to face. So do you think something similar to this we might be getting in the real world anytime soon?
Well, that's a very, very important question you've asked. AI is going to sweep the world. I mean, any technology, new technology, it pains also, it's very rewarding also. Look at the drones which came. The drones are still getting life-saving medicines. Drones are doing amazingly life-saving work. But drones are also, swarms of drones are attacking and killing people, like in the Russia-Ukraine war. So artificial intelligence, you've seen the first impact, what deepfakes are creating.
Yeah, deepfakes.
And deepfake is a very serious violation of one's privacy. And if it goes far, what can happen? It can spread rumors, it can create strife, it can create a lot of problems. So AI can be looked at both ways. Yes, it will cut down a lot of jobs, because many things which the analysts are doing now can be done in seconds.
Definitely.
And then you don't know what will happen. In the medical field, for example, artificial intelligence will create a havoc. I mean, if you start using robots for everything, if you have a kind of analysis which requires, going through a lot of medical records and finding the right prescriptions or finding the right advice, it can come from the artificial intelligence. So where do you need the doctors for? Where do you need the other people for? So it's going to create, in the criminal field, again the same thing will happen. Like the deep fakes, a lot of issues can come up today. In fact, the professionals are trying to assess that how we are going to face up. But should we be scared? I don't think so. See, I'll give you an example. We are on a digital transformation track, right? And digital transformation is again what? It's a new technology which we have got. We're turning digital totally is of great help to us, because see, the direct benefit transfer which the government of India is doing has brought in great benefits to the people, because sitting where you are, you get money in your banks. But what has been the attendant risks? Online frauds are happening. And so many people are losing money because of greed, because of fear, because of that philanthropy. You get a call from your friend, I'm in London and I'm in huge trouble, please send me 10,000 rupees. And then you realize he's not the guy, his phone has been hacked. Some people are giving it out of greed. Every third day I also get a call or a message that, please increase your money by 18% or something like that. And people start giving information, the money is whacked. One of my friends who's from the army, retired from the army, lost 6.5 lakhs. So, you have to be prepared for technology. I'll give you another example. Rand Corporation has said that quantum computing, which is going to come in the next decade, will completely destroy all encryptions. What is encryption? When I talk to you on a WhatsApp chat, the data is encrypted so that nobody hears. In fact, the WhatsApp doesn't know. So if there is a quantum computer which breaks through the encryption, everyone know what you and I are talking. It will also break through the criminals here. But these are things which are bound to come. How are we going to prepare ourselves? That is more important. And I'm sure we'll be able to do it.
But the threat is, I guess, rising immediately, and it's very unexpected, sort of. Just like COVID-19 was very unexpected.
That is true. That is true. So that is why, professionals have to be... Why does the army and police always carry out drills? It's so monotonous. Every Tuesday and Friday, we go to police lines, we are doing a formal marching, we are doing everything. It's because to be prepared for the future. And it is unexpected. So that's why all of us have to get together. We're talking about think tanks, you're talking about the police, army, the ministries. All of us have to see.
Even the government was also blamed that they tapped phones of various journalists or various ministers, in opposition also some MPs, via this Pegasus spyware that they were telling about.
Yeah, well, Pegasus is like a standoff weapon. And standoff weapon means that from anywhere it can infect your... now, that was not conclusively, there was no end to it, because it went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court committee did not come up with any conclusive findings. But the allegations about Pegasus doing it all over the world is correct. And it is one of the spyware which has come from Israel. And there is surveillance is an issue all over the world. All the states do it. But technically, the snooping should also only be done on terrorists, anti-nationals and people like that. It should not be employed against politicians, pressmen and other people, unless they are an anti-national or they become a great national security threat. So I would say the rules which are there now, there are specific rules. If I want to, snoop on you or something, I have to take a permission. There is a procedure to be gone through. So what I have been, advocating is those procedures need to get tightened. Number one. Number two, there has to be an overview. And number three, I have also said it is time that we should get a judicial warrant, judicial permission. It should change from the executives. In Bihar where there is a kahawat, ki chuda ka gawahi dahi. तो मतलब कि one officer asks for it, the other officer gives it to him. दोनों दोस्त हैं, एक दूसरे को दे देते हैं. So that is no, check. And then the cabinet secretary looks over it and says, whether it's right or not. That's not correct. We should have a judicial permission for that, for snooping. and then it should be authorized. That's
Will
fine.
judiciary stay unbiased? Because usually it's the case, the government which is in power, the judiciary also sometimes get inclined towards decisions that favors the government.
No, that is an allegation. I would still have a belief in judiciary. Yes, in some cases you can allude to a kind of a, but that's an individual judge maybe. All in all, I'll definitely say that the judiciary is our last resort to justice, and by it's good to have faith in it.
You still have it, as in even in the contemporary time?
Yes, I would say judiciary, by and large, has stood up for India's justice system. Yes, and many of the good things. If you, on balance, I would still vote for the judiciary.
And speaking about that, I really have this question about bureaucracy overall. Majorly, obviously, the IS, IPS, because these two elite services are those people who are in direct touch with the politicians. A very genuine question, because usually you ask this to a bureaucrat, they'd say they will give an answer in a very diplomatic way.
Yeah.
And the question is that, do bureaucrats have political opinions when they are actually working under a government or a state? Because obviously you cannot stay completely apolitical. There must be a leaning that you're having.
Yeah.
And because of that leaning, you might be making very crucial decisions for the country.
Yeah.
So how's that with the bureaucracy?
Well, you see, this is a very sensitive area that I'm treading into. But let me tell you, there are facts, there is reality, and there is an image. What is the image of a bureaucrat we would like to have? You know, steel frame, vagara, vagara. There's nothing like that. Not in today's world. In a country where every police station, tehsil, thana, everything is permeated with politics, it's very difficult to keep them away from the influence of politics. The netas at the grassroots level thrive on the fact that they have influence over the SHO or the Tahsildar. That is how the people come to them. Otherwise, they won't come. So their whole base of support is because of that. And that's why everyone is interested in SHO transfer, Tahsil transfer, Palana transfer, all this. They're interested in. So that is a huge issue. Now, the question is that whenever a system is broken, the netas get more powerful. There's no doubt about it. And the IAS and the IPS, many of them, they think by jumping onto the bandwagon of a particular leader, they will benefit. And they have benefited. I have seen some of the leaders in stable regimes. Look at, for example, in Odisha.
Yeah.
The government has not changed. So some of the officers have been doing well and well and well and well. They are in this.
Odisha mein also there is this controversy about one IS.
Pandian.
Yeah, Pandian.
Yeah.
So he was sort of, even when he was in service now, so he entered politics.
He became a politician.
Yeah.
And now he's announced himself formally as a politician. I mean, absolutely wrong. This gentleman who's from Tamil Nadu must have been a good officer. There's no doubt. And that's why the CM picked him. But then he became political himself. He should have quit even that time. Now when everyone started shouting and speaking against it, then he resigned and he's joined politics formally. So what I'm saying, unless a bureaucrat is tested in different situations, if you're always there under the benign hand of a politician for last 20, 30 years, you're what? You're just in his steno. I mean, you just listen to what he says.
You don't have your own personality.
You don't have anything. Yeah. So the question is, the leadership is tested in a crunch time. So many of these officers are at the bidding of the politicians, and they have a great service. There are many bureaucrats and cops also who just bide their time speaking good English, writing good English on notes, wearing nice suits, speaking very softly. And the goody, good for nothing. And they finish their year without any, smudge. But there are many who fight the system. There are many who stand up to politicians. And they are either superseded or shunted out or transferred. But they are the ones who people really respect. And let me tell you, in every district, the common panwala also is aware of the reputation of a collector or an SP, that what kind of a man he is or he is. So it depends what the conscience tells you. Whether you stand tall, reach your full height, or you bend a little and gain a lot.
But can you really fight the system?
Oh, you can.
When you are even the part of the system.
There is this Sanjeev Chaturvedi of the Indian Forest Service, who the court has even admired, and they say he knows more law. He has been shunted out, kicked out so many times. There is a Khemka in Haryana who has been booted out so many times. Put him as election commissioner and he'll set all the ills right, like Session. There are so many cops who have stood tall. So, I would say that one should go by the ideals. There are 30%, I always say this, there are 30% officers or people in every walk of life who are absolutely brilliant, solid professionals and straight, on whose shoulders the other 70% rest. The other 70% may either, some of them have flopped, they don't have any professional, will to carry on. Some of them are just good for nothing. They keep writing, create files, so many files that you don't know what to do with them. And the rest of them are pliable, because it's easy to be pliable. Most of them are pliable because it helps to run your run banks accounts and your kids and things like that. Well, put them abroad nicely, get some good postings here and there. It's all for that. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. And do you think nowadays capitalists are having a big role in your government forming? Not only from the perspective of India, but rather from a very global perspective. That if, let's say, a government is not favoring a particular business tycoon, so that business tycoon is going to end up changing the government, flipping the government by obviously the muscle or money power they are having.
Wow, now that's a very sensitive question. I would say in India, till now, no business tycoon would have had the strength or the power to change a regime.
But it's happening.
A center regime. I'll tell you. Wait. Now, it has happened in other countries, smaller countries. But India's democratic credentials are very strong. I mean, I don't think one business tycoon. In fact, I'll give you reason. In India, unfortunately, it's the other way. In America, a business tycoon can criticize the government on certain things. In India, no business tycoon criticizes the government. After every budget, for every business tycoon, the budget is very good. So there is a kind to survive well in business in India, you have to be with the government. One way or the other. There's hardly any about it. So I wouldn't say that any business tycoon would. Of course, it will be their interest to do it. That's a different thing, because some of the business interests are not favored. In UP regime, for example, a series of business interests. When this chief minister comes, this is the business tycoon you identify that person with. That is there. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I agree with you that the business tycoons somehow survive and grow with the governments. But as of the power to destabilize, not yet.
Because even from a global perspective also, suppose you take Jeff Bezos, you take Elon Musk, you take Mark Zuckerberg. You have all the big three people of literally this world who globally also have value and also socially, because you are having literally Meta and Twitter with you. Suppose if these three get together and they decide to run the world, how cruel that would be. Like, they can literally flip a government like this. They have all the social media, they have all the money.
Yeah, but not any amount of social media or money can really sway the Indian voter. The Indian voter is entrenched so deep. He'll say कि हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में इस MP ने क्या किया है, नल लगाया है, वो अच्छी बात है, वो फ्री बिजली दिया है, हाँ बहुत अच्छी बात है, राशन का भी बंटवारा हो रहा है, सब ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी बात है, और वो स्कूल शिक्षा योजना में साइकिल भी मिला है, कंप्यूटर भी मिला है, तमिलनाडु में टीवी भी आ गया है. सो दिल से हाँ ये ठीक है. Then they don't mind whether he is good, bad, ugly, corrupt, not corrupt. It doesn't matter. So I don't think the Indian voters, by and large, and mostly who are in the village and the semi-urban areas, will be swayed by Zuckerberg, no matter what he projects on that.
But India is not so elitist country because in its deep grassroots levels.
Yeah.
But someday or the other day it's going to happen, right? Now even
Well, that's like artificial intelligence. 50 years ahead, we'll see. In the long run, we all die.
Well, everyone was saying we'll have flying cars in 2024, but here we are.
Let me tell you, even the driverless cars are not working. There are a lot of accidents happening.
Yeah.
So let's see when we come to that.
We are still getting the hang of this ADAS feature that's now being introduced to cars. So yeah. Okay, sir. So finally summarizing this conversation and I have kept this final question for you. Really a good one. I hope so. So seeing all the course of this discussion that we were having, there is this one thing that we get to. It's a very ancient term that we use for Bharat or India, that's Vishwaguru. That Bharat is the Vishwaguru. There is a lot of historical context after this thing. But is it really happening at the moment that Bharat or India is still that Vishwaguru? Is it happening? Or if it's happening, then how are we proceeding in that direction? From every perspective, sir.
First of all, I don't think any country can call itself the Vishwaguru. You know, what does a Vishwaguru mean? Vishwaguru means that you are a teacher of the world. Guru is a teacher and Vishwa is the world. Can you ever conceive of any country admitting to another country being a world teacher? No. You can teach yoga to the world. You can teach good moral principles to the world. You can teach diplomacy to the world. But can you become a teacher in the sense that the entire countries will revere you? I don't think we should project these things. India is doing well. India is already emerging as one of the big powers in the world. We should be humble. We should look at other. We are already doing well. We hosted the G20. Our stature is much enhanced. There's no doubt about it. We are already doing well. We are a nuclear power. We have sent our things to the moon. Chandrayaan, for example, was a great year. We are firing satellites for various other countries. We are the third or fourth largest arms purchaser. But we have a lot to do. Even in South Asia, we are not the top per capita income country. There has to be much, much more distribution of wealth in the country. How has Delhi changed with all this, 4 trillion economy that we are talking about? Something should change. Something should be visible on ground. Pollution should go. Garbage should go. Traffic should be better. Infrastructure should be improved. Look at the government buildings dilapidated. When you come down, you see the bank buildings on the Defense Colony Highway. That needs to change. The things needs to be spruced up. We need more and more CEOs of these foreign multinational companies staying in Delhi. Not our CEOs going to Singapore and other places and staying there and working from there. We need more and more high-class universities where the foreigners come and study here. That Nalanda is an example. It was one of the finest institutions we ever had. We need to attract more and more talent over there. That is how we'll come. We should work towards it. We were Vishwaguru once. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. And we should aspire for that. But words like this we should not use in the air. No country uses it. It shouldn't, appear to them that we are teaching anything. In fact, we should, in a very humble way, suggest to them. And that will be our greater success.
No, we are more like a friend, not like a teacher.
More, absolutely right.
So that's sort of India we should aspire for. But don't you think so? Some of the ideals that we are really looking forward to are very idealistic from the Indian perspective, because literally there is such a huge crowd that you have to cater to, which is continuously increasing.
I have a very clear idea about our pollution and a very clear view about it. that we have suffered so much because of overpopulation, so much that all this talk about the population being a dividend is for me, I think it's rubbish. No amount of amenities, no amount of healthcare, no amount of infrastructure can satisfy 140 crore people. Look at Delhi, it's bursting out of its seams, you know. There is, whatever, the metros are getting crowded, the flights are getting, you know, haywire because of the population. The traffic has gone berserk. You know, garbage, litter is so much. And it's all because of population. I mean, people talking about the age-old curve which will come about 40 years or hence. What about this? We have seen what the last 75 years has given us. So I think whenever it comes in terms of disciplining anything, we try to shirk. You know, so we don't talk about population. We have taken it as a given. But it's wrong. I mean, there should be a child norm in this country. Why should people be allowed to produce as much as they like, 7, 11, 13?
But again, the elitist crowd is not present here. We are having these things of children and all that with the people who belong to the village areas of the country.
No, but I'll tell you something. Exactly. If you have more employment, if you have more education, this will come down. This will come down on its own. And it is coming down. So we were wrong in the sense that we should have spent much. Today also we are not spending as much on health and education as we should. So these are issues which are one of the biggest problems in India is the crowd. There is no space. There is just no space. And that's a huge... Why do people go abroad? To breathe.
That's true.
To stand in good weather, enjoy. That is not there. Space is not there. Physical space. We are too crowded. And that will remain for quite some time.
It will decrease after some time, you're saying that?
Well, yes. I mean, we have a 140 crore population. For it to taper down, maybe a few generations ahead, 50, 60 years down the line, who knows?
Okay. Okay, sir. I guess that was also all from my side. Really happened to enjoy every discourse of this conversation. Got to know so many things. I hope you had a great time too. And yeah.
Oh yes, thank you very, very much. It was really enjoyable and quite a learning experience. I mean,
for me, sir,
seeing that youngsters think so much about so many things.
Well, they should. To our viewers watching this. So thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thanks.